You wiped the whole house down on Saturday. Every shelf, every sill, the top of the picture frames, the television, the lamp you always forget. You ran the cloth over it and it came away gray, and you felt good about it. Then Sunday came, and by the time you were clearing the supper plates you dragged one finger across that same shelf and there it was again, a soft gray coat, like the house had been snowing on itself all day. So you dust again. And again the next week, and the week after that, and it never once ends, and somewhere in the back of your mind you have decided that dust is just weather, just something that falls on a house the way rain falls on a field, and there is nothing to be done but keep wiping. Now stand in my daughter's front room. Bare wood floor, a plain wooden bench, a shelf with a clock and 2 books on it, 1 rug. Esther takes a damp cloth and a broom to that room once a week, on a Friday, and the rest of the week it stays clean, genuinely clean, the shelf still bare of gray come the following Thursday. Same air. Same dust in the world outside. She is not wiping harder than you. She is not wiping more often than you. She is winning a war you did not even know had a strategy, and losing it every single day, in the same country, breathing the same sky. My name is Jonas, and I am Amish, and today I am going to show you why your house makes so much of its own dust, because so much of what settles on your shelves was never tracked in from outside, it was made indoors, by the very things you bought to be comfortable. I will walk you room by room and take those little factories apart one at a time, and hand you the plain old habits that quiet them down. And hold this question the whole way, because I will not answer it until the end. Of all the comforts in a modern house, there is one single thing doing more of the dust work against you than anything else, one thing that is quietly a dust machine running day and night, and so many homes have it, and love it, and never once suspect it. Hold that. Keep it in your pocket. I promise it pays off. Let us start with the honest question nobody asks: what is house dust, actually? Pick up a pinch and look close. A little of it is soil and pollen that blew in the door, yes. But a great deal of it, much of that gray coat on your shelf, is your house shedding its own fibers. It is lint, worn loose from carpet and clothing and bedding. It is tiny fibers, fabric fraying a thread at a time every hour of every day. Once you know that, the whole thing turns over in your hand, because it means the amount of dust in your house is not set only by the world outside. So much of it is set by how much soft, shedding, synthetic material you have living indoors with you, and how much of it you stir back into the air. And by that measure the modern house is built, floor to ceiling, in a way that makes a lot of dust, while the old house was built, without anyone planning it, in a way that makes almost none. Look down first, because the biggest factory is under your feet. Wall-to-wall carpet. We will come back to it, that is all I will say for now, but understand what it is: acres of cut synthetic fiber, and every fiber a little thread that frays and sheds a bit of itself every time a foot lands on it. You are walking on a machine that turns your footsteps into lint, all day, and then pushing that lint down into the pad where a weekly vacuum only stirs the top of it. A carpet is not a floor you clean. It is a floor that makes a good deal of the very thing you are trying to clean off your shelves. Now feel the air move, because that is the second factory, and it is the sneaky one. The forced air furnace, the central air, that blessed vent in the floor that blows warm in January and cool in July. Here is what else it blows. Dust, in a house, wants to do one honest thing: settle. It drifts down, it lands, it lies still. That is its whole nature. And every time your furnace or your air conditioner kicks on, a fan roars to life and pushes a river of air through every room, and it lifts a lot of that settled dust off the floor and the baseboards and throws it back up into the air you breathe, so it can drift down and land on your shelf all over again. Your comfort system is like a leaf blower running in your living room a dozen times a day. It does not remove the dust. It keeps much of it airborne, in circulation, unable to rest, which is a big part of why it lands on that high shelf you swear you just cleaned. The third factory you are wearing. Fleece, polyester, the soft synthetic blanket on the couch, the fuzzy bathrobe, the wall-to-wall of your own wardrobe. Every one of those sheds microlint the way a dandelion sheds seed, quietly, constantly, into the air of the room. Pull a fleece jacket over your head in a shaft of morning light sometime and watch the little galaxy that comes off it. That is going somewhere. That is going onto your shelf. And the fourth factory is the one you dust around instead of dusting, the shelf of little things. The knickknacks, the framed photos, the fake plant, the row of figurines, the basket of odds and ends. Every trinket is a surface dust lands on and a surface a cloth cannot easily reach, so the dust just sits there, and worse, every time the furnace fan stirs the room it lifts off those 100 little ledges and redistributes itself. A cluttered shelf is not decorated. It is upholstered in dust. And the last one walks in the front door on your feet, the street, the parking lot, the lawn, the fine grid of the whole outdoors, tracked in on shoe soles and ground into that carpet with every step until it powders and rises. So that is the modern house, a fiber floor that sheds, a fan that will not let anything settle, clothing and bedding that molt, 100 trinkets that catch and refling it, and shoes carrying the street across all of it. You are not just fighting dust. You are running a small factory that makes a lot of it, and then wiping the product off the shelves, and calling that housekeeping. No wonder it feels like weather. No wonder it never ends. Now let me take you into the old house and show you the counters, one for one, because the Amish parlor is not clean by magic, it is clean because it was built and run to make less dust and let what little there is lie down and stay caught. Start with that floor again. Bare wood, or plain linoleum. Nothing to shed, a wood plank does not fray into your air. And you do not vacuum it, you damp mop it. A damp mop or a damp cloth does the one thing a dry duster and a vacuum never do, it takes the dust away, off the premises, into the bucket and out the door. That is the whole secret of the damp cloth, and it is worth stopping on, because most folks dust exactly backwards. A dry duster, a dry rag, a feather wand, all it tends to do is lift the dust off the shelf and put it into the air, where it drifts around and lands right back down an hour later. You did not remove it. You relocated it. A cloth barely damp, wrung out until it is just cool to the touch, grabs the dust and holds it, and you rinse it down the drain and it is gone from your house. Dry dusting moves the enemy around the room. Damp dusting marches him out the door. That change alone, and nothing else, will cut down on what comes back to your shelves. The rugs. We have rugs, of course, but a rug in the old house is not nailed down wall to wall, it is a loose thing you can pick up. And once a week it does not get vacuumed, it gets carried outside, thrown over the clothesline, and beaten with a stick or a woven beater until the dust flies off it into the yard, into the wide outdoors where it belongs, instead of into a machine that puffs some of it back into your front room through its own exhaust. The dust leaves the house and does not come drifting back. 100 years ago every backyard had a rug on the line on wash day and a child swatting it, and that child was doing a great deal of real dust removal in 10 minutes, because the dirt ended up in the grass, not back in the air. The air itself is the big one, and here the old house wins by doing nothing. There is no forced air furnace in Esther's home. Heat comes off a wood stove, and a wood stove heats by radiance. It warms the room the way the sun warms your face, in still air, with no fan and no blowing. So the dust in that room gets to obey its own nature. It drifts down, it lands, and it stays landed, because nothing ever comes along to kick it back up. Still air is a house where dust settles once and then quits. Moving air is a house where dust rarely gets to rest. That is much of the difference between a room you dust weekly and a room you dust daily, and it is running through your floor vents right now. Then there is simply less to shed. Fewer textiles, no wall-to-wall carpet, no synthetic throws heaped on every seat, a wardrobe of plain cotton and wool and linen that mold far less than fleece and polyester. Fewer trinkets, a bare shelf with a clock and a book is a shelf you wipe in 4 seconds and that has almost nothing to catch dust in the meantime. And the shoes come off at the door. Every plain house has a bench or a row of pegs right inside the entry, and the street stays on the porch where it fell. You would be amazed how much of the grit in a modern carpet is simply the outdoors, walked in and ground to powder. Take the shoes off and you have shut that door. And one more, the finishing touch the old folks knew, the polish. Bare wood in an Amish home is rubbed now and then with beeswax and a little linseed oil, worked in with a cloth. That wax does something a bare dry surface cannot. It gives the wood a faint hold, a tack so slight you cannot feel it, and dust that lands on a waxed surface tends to stay put there gently instead of skating off at the first draft to go airborne again. So when the damp cloth comes on Friday, the week's dust is right there waiting to be lifted off, not scattered back into the room. Beeswax on the wood, a damp cloth in the hand, still air in the room, shoes at the door. That is a house that makes little and keeps less of it aloft, and it is why once a week is plenty. So here we are at the end, and I owe you an answer. All this time I have had you holding one question. Of everything in the modern house, what is the single biggest dust machine of them all? Walk back through the factories with me. The clothing sheds, yes. The trinkets catch. The furnace fan keeps it all stirred and airborne, and that one is close. In a house with old ducks it may even take the prize. But the one thing sitting under so many modern homes, the one thing making dust and hiding it and refusing to give it up all at once, is the wall-to-wall carpet. Think about what it actually is. It is a floor made of soft fiber that frays into lint with every footstep, a factory. It is a trap that swallows the street grit and the pet hair and the shed skin and holds a good deal of it down in the pad where no vacuum reaches. And then the furnace fan blows across it and beats a little more of that hidden hoard up into the air. It makes dust, it stockpiles dust, and it releases dust, all day, under your feet, and you paid good money to install it and you vacuum it faithfully and it repays you with the gray coat on your shelf every evening. That is your reversal. The comfort you were sure was keeping you clean is the loudest little factory in the house. You cannot tear out your carpet this weekend, and I would not tell you to. But you can do the free half tonight, and it will show on your shelves within the fortnight. Take your shoes off at the door and put a bench there so you remember. Trade the dry duster for a barely damp cloth and feel the difference in what comes back. Clear the worst of the trinkets off one shelf and see how much less it needs wiping. And on a mild day, shut the forced air off for a few hours and let the room go still, and watch how the dust lies down when nothing is there to lift it. This weekend, carry one rug out to the line and beat it in the yard the old way, and rub a little beeswax into your wood. Then come tell me in the comments, what is the one surface in your house that goes gray fastest, the shelf or the sill you are sick of wiping? Name it, and I will tell you which factory is likely feeding it. And if that damp, musty towel smell rides along with your dust, go back and watch the one where I hunt that smell through the whole house, because damp and dust are cousins and they keep the same corners. Before long I will take you all the way inside a plain home, room by room, and show you every quiet thing built into it that a modern house forgot. Stay with me for that one. The old ways still work.